welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and this week, we have Millennial Mike joining on the co-host chair. Welcome back.
Hey, guys. Good to be back again. How often do you have him in the rotation? Like every 2 months, every month and a half, something like that?
I think it's every month and a half is what it ends up coming out to.
Yeah. It's a good rotation. It gives us a little bit of time to. I can be a little much sometimes. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
No, not at all. I always feel enough of this. I know it is a commitment, even if it is every month and a half or so, but it is a commitment to sit in and help host. So I try not to have it be like too much for you guys because you're all being so generous with your time. But it is good to have you on, and every single host on here is very strong. They're good in their own aspects, like you with film and anime especially. Then we got others that are big on video games, so you help fill in a lot of the gaps that I definitely lack on. But for those of you, if it is your very first episode, the way we format the show is we go through the bulk of the episode, which is news. This week we have what's new on Netflix, which are going to be the November 2021 highlights. And then we end it with the Brokehead block, which is what Millennial Mike and I have been doing this week, playing, reading, all of that at the more personal side of the podcast at the very end of the episode. So let's go ahead and explore sector number 480. This one has been sent my way by several people already. They know that I very lightly collect Pokemon cards, and the federal government has accused a man from Georgia of spending roughly $57,000 on a single Pokemon card. The government found that Vinath Almozine had applied for an economic injury disaster loan back in July of 2020, and his company was said to be made up of 10 different people in total with an annual gross revenue of $235,000, but these details were falsified so that he can get a larger loan. I'm kind of feeling like we're going to see more of these stories, more of these fraud stories based on that money that they seem to have given away last year. I saw some figure somewhere of 8 trillion something rather that were sent out to people that maybe shouldn't have been. But for this one in particular, it's kind of interesting. He said he fucking spent it all or over half of it on a Pokemon card.
The last one, I finally caught it. I've caught them all.
I still don't know what card it is, and I'm very curious to know.
It's like the most bunk card ever, It's a fake. I mean, he could have bought this, or he could have bought the Nintendo Pass,
Yeah, that's true. that's how people are making it out.
Yeah.
So this guy could face 20 years in prison to go along with $250,000 in fines. Some people have been telling me that it's probably not going to be the case. They're not really going to throw the book at him, but they might set an example with this. If there is another moment, another shutdown, then they can say, hey, if you falsify this, think about that Pokemon guy.
That'd be pretty frightening there to throw the book at him.
Is there any collectible at all? I don't know if you're huge on collections, but is there anything that if you had, let's say $100,000, that you're like...
that I would spend it on?
Yeah.
Oh, see, the thing is that I'm big into movies, so I do like to actually, have like a movie collection, but no movie costs that much, Maybe like a vinyl record of like a soundtrack from a movie or something, That'd be pretty cool. Because vinyl can be a little bit more of a kind of a collector's item. I don't have any vinyl now, but I would love to get into vinyl. And I do think it sounds fantastic, especially if you have a really good setup. Mm-hmm. So I have to buy the setup. That'd be a part of the cost too. And then I'd buy the vinyl record, Of course, if you're collecting it, you can't play it. And the thing about vinyl is that the more you play it, the more you wear it out. So it's like, I don't know. That's why I don't collect anything.
I wonder if that's still the case with vinyl even today. If it's still, or if they've kind of improved the quality of them where you can play them more often and it won't wear off too quickly. Because I know it's kind of made a comeback.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think basically you have like like synthetic. Like the new stuff is like basically kind of like a synthetic. The needles, the eyes are more precise. They sound better. They don't wear down as much. They're a little less crude, the needles are. So it probably does. So I don't know. I really don't know. My father's actually really big at collecting vinyl. He has a huge vinyl collection. I mean, massive vinyl collection. He has this record player that's like 80, 90 years old.
Oh, wow.
Wooden with the doors. There's actually two amplification doors you open up. You actually open the doors to make the sound louder. There's a small door and there's a bigger door.
That's amazing. I love the idea of that. I've seen those kinds. I didn't know what it was for. I thought it was like a fancy display, but no, you're saying it's literally to make the volume go up and down.
Yeah. It's about the sound, because it resonates within the box. So when you open it up, it amplifies it. It's crazy, yeah.
In the world of manga, we're going to get more from Marvel and DC. Joining the likes of Deadpool, Batman, and Joker getting their own series in the East, Superman is now joining their ranks with a new manga series that has arrived in Japan. It's released by Kodansha Publishers, the same company responsible for the manga run of Attack on Titan, Eden Zero, Fate Grand Order. And this new Superman story tends to lean more towards the latter, as Superman versus food, of course, Japan. We'll see the Man of Steel traveling around Japan while trying to get some meals as he protects the Earth.
This is pretty interesting, because I've known that Marvel and DC have done, like, I always known about that Spider-Man manga. There was a Batman manga for a little bit. I never really heard much about it because it was kind of more of like a hole in the wall thing. And there was even like a Japanese Spider-Man and Batman show, was there not?
I know there was definitely a Spider-Man one.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's been a history of it, and I'm sure that Japan, has their own kind of audience, but I'm not sure how well it will do over here. I mean, I know anime is getting bigger over here. It's a lot less of a niche than it used to be. So I don't know. I feel like it should be, but at the same time, I just feel as though, a lot of the same issues that we have in the industry over here will probably translate to manga too. I mean, as long as it's the same character, I don't know. Like, do you think someone's gonna be like, man, like Superman sucked recently, and then they'll be like, oh, but there's a manga where he's eating food? Like, I don't know. I'm not sure if it'll change much, but I hope it does.
I know the sentiment isn't great about American characters in Japan, so I'd be curious to see how well this actually does over there. When I worked at the comic shop, I did carry the Justice League manga that they released, and it did not do well. The American comic readers, they don't read manga, at least that age range of 40 to 50-year-olds. So they didn't care about the manga, and then the manga readers would skip over it to buy My Hero Academia or Demon Slayer or Attack of the Titans. So that's that. I ended up just like going out of print, and when I sold them, I was just like, all right, no reorders on those.
Can I ask you a question, actually? Because you probably will know this. With manga adaptations of American superheroes and whatnot, do they typically kind of skew more into like the comedic, kind of more lighthearted, kind of wacky direction, or what would you say the kind of the rule is, or is it pretty mixed as far as the adaptations go?
From what I flipped through on the Justice League manga, there were 2 volumes that we ended up carrying. It looked like it was taking it seriously, like it was kind of like a shonen type of manga or
That's
story.
Amazing. That sounds incredible.
And so you see like anime versions of Joker and Batman and Superman, and it's done by Japanese artists. It just didn't really catch on though. So this one kind of, I guess, surprised me a little bit, Superman versus Food, because it's not trying to, I guess, capture that feel of DC Comics, which are, save the world and all of that. It's more of he's eating food. So I think it feels more like it would appeal to the Japanese audience, which tends to be more into those slice of life type of stories and not necessarily all action, which is pretty popular here in the US.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about that. I know that, like, depending on the demographic, you have kind of like your commuters in Japan, where there's a lot of people who read like manga on their commute to work, there's a huge demographic for that. I know that like there's typically kind of like, something that you'd want to read like on your, I mean, I guess I don't know what that would be. Probably something a little bit more low key. Like I'm not gonna like probably read something super intense, on the bus ride. I just something that I can kind of be more casual about. Maybe that's I don't know. We'll have to see. But I don't know about that.
If I were ordering this one, I'd probably pass on it based on the other ones did, but we'll see if it continues in Japan. We had some pretty big Batwoman news drop this week. It kind of stayed on Twitter and on websites for several days as more information.
And it should stay on Twitter.
Yeah, it sounds like it because there's a couple different sides on this one. Former Batwoman star Ruby Rose took to social media this morning to make a number of explosive claims, and this was a few days ago by the time we're recording this, about the CW and Warner Brothers television conditions that led to her exit. She said, quote, "I'm going to tell the whole world what really happened on that set. I will come for you so that what happened to me never happens to another person again. And so I can finally take back my life and the truth. Shame on you," end quote. So not a lot of specifics there. However, Rose alleged that longtime Warner Brothers television chief Peter Roth, who left the studio at the end of 2020, hired a private investigator to get dirt on her and then fired the investigator, quote, "as soon as the report didn't fit your narrative," end quote. That sounds a little familiar, doesn't it?
I don't really even know what to say about this. I mean, I would like to believe that Warner Brothers is in the wrong, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, the entire thing can go up in flames, like it's like, I'm not going to take a side like on one, like from one portion against another, because it's like all of it is in my opinion, is fire worthy. But, at the same time, it's like, listen, so there's a lot of things that questions that I have about this. What I want to know is what was the narrative? The narrative was that like what she was stepping down, because that's always the narrative. No one ever quits, no one's ever fired. They always step down, or they have better things, or moving on to greener pastures, all that kind of stuff. I mean, first and foremost, what was Ruby Rose doing before this? Like this is it. Yeah. There's no way that she just stepped down from a DC character. And the CW makes a lot of money from what I understand, and they have a lot of like advertising, and you get your name and your face out there, so, and apparently, this is a stepping stone to get into the movies now. So, I mean, that's obviously a big opportunity that they missed. So, yeah, I don't think that she would have stepped down. And I wonder what Warner Brothers' angle is on this and why they want to get rid of Ruby. I mean, they made such a big deal about choosing Ruby,
Well,
and it wasn't like she was a big staple, like, to the series before they hired her. It was just kind of like, because she was only around for one season, so it wasn't like, man, we're investing in this character, she's been around forever, and man, there wasn't like a whole like Ruby Rose like fandom or anything like that was like, or a Ruby Batwoman fandom, was there?
Not that I know of. The only people that I saw celebrating when they cast Ruby Rose in general was the gay community, because she is a member of that community. But outside of that, I don't know of any other fandom that recognizes her outside of like the John Wick people, who she was in number 2. But that was all I've ever seen her in.
I see. Yeah, I think I heard some people like before Batwoman was cast, that was like kind of like speculating that it might be her, and that she would be a good cast or something like that. But I don't remember exactly. It's been such a while, and I kind of left the CW scene, long before Batwoman came to the fore.
Yep, so, same here.
Before I got to that point. But yeah, I hope that obviously, if something was unethical was done, that it will be undone. I don't necessarily have any against Ruby or whoever the new Batwoman is, but I don't like Warner Brothers.
Right. Well, Ray Fisher was talking about, he was in support for Ruby and what she spoke to, and He specifically pointed out the investigator that was hired by Warner Brothers because something very similar happened to him, where they were trying to get dirt on him so that they can make this whole investigation go away. And later that day, Warner Brothers Television did strike back, claiming that Rose was engaging in, quote, revisionist history, end quote. According to WB, they declined to pick up the option on Rose's contract for season 2 as a result of complaints by the cast and crew about her on-set behavior. Over at Comic Book Resources, a PA said she couldn't stand working with Rose on Batwoman. She said, quote, she stormed off set, she yelled at people, and whenever she interacted with any of us, production assistants, we were disregarded as the trash we picked up, end quote. And so far, Berlanti Productions and most of the current Batwoman cast have stayed out of it. So that's where I thought it got really interesting that someone from on set, now we don't know if maybe this is someone from Warner Brothers or not.
Right.
But if someone comes out from that actually worked on the set of Batwoman and maybe confirms either side, that's when it's going to really ramp up, either die really quickly or it's going to churn into, let's just cancel Batwoman, really.
It's interesting. We've been hearing stories like this, Scarlet came out, right? About, against Disney about contractual stuff. I wonder if this is a mounting issue to where it's like there are more issues than there were before, or if maybe a precedent was set, maybe with Ray, and now other actors are kind of becoming more entitled, or if for some reason the studios are just being, bigger jerks than they usually are, or if maybe there's something going on. Maybe there's disagreements about, I don't know, something tumultuous or hot topic like vaccinations or something like that that's causing people to be a little bit, at each other. Because I've heard that that's been a big issue with the workforce, is disagreements about hot topic stuff that's relevant to the past year or two. So that could be a cause for maybe some of this. I have no idea, but I find it interesting that I'm hearing more about this than. And it could just be that. It could just be we're so low on news that we're getting into tabloid drama about behind the scenes stuff. But it's always been like that. So I don't know why it seems to be so much more like that recently. But I don't know. I guess we'll see.
We will. And some of that could also be that actors see others like Ray Fisher and others coming out recently with the Buffy cast against Joey Whedon. And they're they feel like, okay, this is now I'm feeling comfortable enough to say something. That could be the case. It could be either side, but it will be interesting to see how this all unrolls in the end. And we've got some news from Warner Brothers themselves as they claim that this year's DC Fandom, the internet traffic shattered last year's viewership numbers with 66 million views worldwide from the event, which took place on October 16th, which people pointed out on Twitter, where are those numbers really? Because you look at the YouTube streaming numbers, and I think they have 1 million subs, and it's like, okay, you didn't get 66 million out of that. But supposedly that nearly tripled the number from last year's first ever Fandom. And a quote here from Ann Sarnoff, chair and CEO of Warner Media Studios, said, quote, "We continue to innovate across the company in service of our fans, and I cannot overstate the creativity and hard work that went into this highly curated global digital event. We gave fans what they wanted, the very best of all things DC, and their engagement and response have been fantastic," end quote. Feels like a jab there, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, I can be honest. Anything she said would feel like a jab. I mean, anything positive would feel like a jab. We talk about this most, at least on the podcast that we're on. It's like, hey, power to you. Do what you got to do. I'm out regardless of how well you do. I hope that you don't do well, but if you do, it's just too bad. I mean, if they're doing well, they're doing well. It's like I can deny whenever they come out with these numbers. Oh, I couldn't have done those numbers without Zack. But it's like, well, maybe they could,
Did you tune into anything Fandom? I know you said you're out of it, but did you watch anything? Okay, me neither.
I didn't even. Yeah, every once in a while I'll poke my head into Twitter on a few different accounts that that I know and kind of see what they're talking about, like 2 or 3, and actually a lot of them actually put locks on their accounts, so I can't see anymore. but but yeah, but not really anything. No, not specific. I figured, fandom was always kind of like they were kind of apologizing for Zack Snyder's Justice League on the first fandom, and you could tell that they really didn't want to do it before, during, and after. So I knew that after it was all done, they would go extra hard in the paint against the old regime.
And I think a lot of that has to do with there's going to be no changes from the current heads of Warner Brothers or the people in charge. And I think that's why Zack, not even 6 months ago, was saying, let's see what happens with Discovery. And he left it at that. So we're all kind of waiting. This is a no surprise thing. We're still asking for it. And in a few months or in less than half a year, that's when we'll see where the chips lie. I think that's when we'll get a clearer picture of, does Discovery have any intention of continuing the Snyderverse? Or at the very least, hopefully then Zack will say, I had talks with them, or I didn't have talks with them, so this is kind of it. I think by the next year, we'll have an answer one way or the other.
No, it'll be good. It'll be healthy.
Yeah.
It'll be healthy for us. It'll be healthy for us to have just a final answer, and then we can all just be in the camp we want to be in.
Exactly right. And Warner Brothers also confirmed that all of their films next year are not going to be receiving a day and date release on HBO Max. We kind of got a hint of this, but now they fully came out and confirmed it. The releases will have a 45-day exclusive theatrical window before they hit streaming services. They would not specify then it would be on HBO Max. They said streaming services. What are your thoughts on a year? Now we have about a year of this, the day and date options that ran with HBO Max.
I like the idea that you can have more options, but there's always downsides. It's just how it is. That takes away from the exclusivity and the value of the theatrical experience. And I'm biased again, toward and in favor of the theatrical experience. So anything that goes against that, at the very least, I'm not crazy about it. So the fact that they're kind of backpedaling on that a little bit shows that there's still more value in the theatrical experience, which is promising. I like to hear that. And we're going to talk about Sony a little bit later. Sony's pretty much been all in on the theatrical experience. Every one of their films has been theater and theater only. And of course they don't have a streaming service, which they could so easily do. I mean, they have a huge digital infrastructure with their Sony Entertainment and their gaming and their TVs, and they could so easily make a service, but they're not. So that's also very interesting. I wonder why it is that way.
I've been enjoying watching the theatrical movies on HBO Max as a secondary option. So what I still like to do, and maybe I'm an outlier, I know a lot of people that I talk to, they enjoy being able to stay at home and watch the movie on HBO Max, but I'm a guy that likes to see it on the big screen first whenever possible. And I did that with Dune recently. I did that with James Bond, although that's not an HBO Max thing. But if it were, I'd still go see it in theaters first. And then as a rewatch, if I enjoyed the film or if I'm going to discuss it right here, then I will see it again on HBO Max. And that's what I intend to do with Dune. But otherwise, to me, the big screen, that's the way to enjoy a movie the first time. And I don't know how much this is really helping their numbers. They probably looked at sub numbers after they made that announcement of, here we have day one releases on HBO Max and in theaters, which pissed off theaters. It pissed off the actors, the directors that were directly tied into a movie's box office performance. Their bonus was based on how well it did in theaters, and they got pissed off. Nolan so much so that he's off of Warner Brothers now, and he's at Universal. So it really cost them quite a bit, and I think that was probably the main idea behind this. Of one, we're getting back out there. Theaters are thankfully starting to bounce back. But two, they didn't really see a lot of benefits. There probably was not a huge spike in sub numbers after that announcement.
I do remember the whole Nolan thing too. It's crazy. Yeah, although I would say Universal probably needs Nolan more than Warner Brothers does.
Yeah, at this point, yeah. and hopefully they give him the budget that he wants to make the movies that he wants. I know that was a thing that people were saying, like, good luck finding another studio that's going to fund your personal projects. And it's like, he's fucking Chris Nolan. Who's not going to pay him?
Well, yeah, but Warner Brothers did do what they did, and they are championed and renowned as one of the most director-driven studios of all time. We all loved Warner Brothers because of it. So the fact that they did it, that automatically tells me the kind of sentiment and precedent that's being sent about directors like Nolan. And I mean, that tells you right there, you know, in my opinion.
Are you going to be there for his next movie when it hits Universal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think.
As a matter of fact, I didn't watch my favorite director's new movie, Denis Villeneuve. I did not watch his movie, and I will not watch his movie because it's with Warner Brothers. That's how like serious I am with that principle. I know it sounds ridiculous.
No, I get it. I totally get it, man. There's a lot of boycott Warner Brothers, and I totally understand that. I'm with you on the camp for all the Hamadaverse stuff for sure. And I don't know, maybe I haven't seen enough of, and I guess it is all Toby, isn't it? Maybe I'm too focused on Walter Hamada and Sarnoff, and that's why I didn't take the boycott dive on Dune. But maybe it's something I should be doing, and something with Matrix too.
You know, it's funny because, like, for me, in my opinion, like, if it's not like Denis, then you can basically expect it to be something like DC. Even if it's not a DC, like, for instance, Godzilla versus Kong, right? Might as well be a comic book movie, right? Yeah. You know, it's like any blockbuster movie nowadays that's not made by, like, the trinity of, like, you know, auteur directors is going to 100% be a comic book movie in a different like suit. So it's like nowadays I really don't distinguish. It's like I don't like what Disney's doing. I don't like what Warner Brothers is doing, that, you know, as far as following suit with them and their kind of overall creative direction. So I also kind of look at other movies too that are not Marvel, quote unquote, or DC, and I kind of treat them the same way. But that's just me. I mean, not to be overly serious, but you know, we'll have to see. If things change, you know, which I hope they do, I'm always here for cinema.
There you go. Let's hope Discovery. Come on, you can't be worse. You can't be worse. You had mentioned Sony earlier, and they actually announced some release dates for some unannounced Marvel projects. They set these for June 23rd, 2023, and October 6th, 2023. And we also have, of course, Kraven the Hunter debuting in January of 2023. Venom Let There Be Carnage is currently in theaters, and we've got Morbius coming up January of next year. I'm excited for the Sony Marvel stuff that's coming out. I did enjoy Venom Let There Be Carnage. I don't know if these have to do with the current Spider-Man, because I think they can still use him, even though it's shared with Disney. Yeah. I think they can use the Tom Holland Spider-Man for their own solo films if they wanted to.
Did you guys do a review on Carnage?
Yes. Yeah, I did that one with Palpa Kelly.
Got it. Okay, cool. I saw the thumbnail. I didn't get to watch. Didn't watch it. That was the last one you did, right?
I think 2 episodes ago, yeah.
Right. In general, my sentiments towards Sony are still positive, but I'm going to tell you something. They're waning. They're waning. I didn't like Carnage. Did you like
the first one?
Yeah, I did.
Interesting.
But this is the thing, and they're both very similar.
Yeah.
But that's the issue, is that like the reason why I like Venom was because of the novelty, right? Like because of how different it was from what the current offering. Like I literally liked Venom because it wasn't Marvel. Basically,
that makes sense. I got you.
Basically, and but I recognize that, and I felt like there was a certain like a lot of the humor in this new one felt very Marvel Studios, whereas in the other one, while still hit and miss, didn't feel that way. So I did appreciate that, and just some of the creative decisions that they made, as far as like this tone of it was a little bit. The new one, I still. You can still tell that some of the like kind of creative direction is still there, but it just feels like they're really leaning into the Marvel Studios thing. And the biggest issue that I have, and I kind of should have known this probably going in, but it was that they didn't do Carnage justice.
No, it's a very different Carnage. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's literally just red Venom. And we all knew this would be an issue because the normal Venom is willing to use lethal force, right? Lethal violence, right? The new Venom, I mean, how can you make him any more venomous or venomous, villainous? But it works too, either way.
Yeah.
How can you make him any more villainous? You make him more lethal, right? But he's really not that much more lethal. He just does a lot of talk. I'm crazy. I like blood and stuff. But he doesn't have the bite in actual practice. He just feels, just a little watered down, in my opinion. I felt that this movie would have a little bit more grit to it. So when I hear about Kraven the Hunter, I'm like, no. All these villains are so. There's some real like pathos and grit to these characters, and I'm just afraid that they're not going to really get that.
Well,
so I don't know. We'll see.
Like overall, I've enjoyed Sony's handling of the Marvel characters. They have a winning record in my book, and even if Venom,
including Spider-Man.
Yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man and the older ones too. I mean,
I thought you were talking about Tom Holland.
No, that's all MCU. That's all Disney. Like I know Sony's distributing them, but that's why they did a partnership with Disney so that Disney can make the movie. And I haven't seen those, and I won't watch them because they are a part of the MCU. And
you're generally more optimistic, which is cool. I think we need people, like yourself that are more on the optimistic side, and you just like to be hyped and all that. I might be overly cynical. I probably am, so don't mind me.
No, I mean you're going to be there for Morbius, right?
No, I don't think I will be.
Come on, Jared Leto.
Yeah, I was really hyped about it, but honestly, I was just as hyped, if not more hyped. Well, no, I was actually more hyped for Morbius, actually, but I don't know. I have a really bad sense, a bad feeling going on. If Morbius ends up also kind of going the same direction that the Carnage movie did, what then? Am I supposed to watch? Am I supposed to watch Kraven too? I think I kind of have a whiff of it, and I don't like what it smells like.
I see what you're saying. So if I would probably agree too. If you don't end up liking Morbius, should you choose to watch it, then you probably shouldn't watch Kraven or the other two that they're making, because clearly there's a direction that they're going in. And that's kind of the same thing I went with the MCU. I'm like, I'm not liking these fucking things. Why am I watching the next one? And same thing's happening right now with DC films. So I get it. I'll be there for Morbius, and if that's good too, then I'll be there for Kraven.
If you say like, okay, this is way better than Carnage, like Morbius is like, he's real. He's a real threat. He's got a certain like level of pathos and seriousness to it. The film's got a real good atmosphere, and the music is great. The action's good. I'll do it. But if you're like, it was like Carnage, I'm like, I told you.
Yeah, we'll find out in 2 months. Zack Snyder got in the news this week as he confirmed that his sequel to Army of the Dead will be called Planet of the Dead. He also teased that Ludwig Dieter, who is played by Matthias Schweighöfer, will be making a surprise return. He said, quote, "The real adventure would be to see what happened to Ludwig when that safe door closed. Did he get killed by Zeus or not? What happened? We don't see him die on camera, and there's still some time left. I won't tell you what happens in Army of the Dead 2, aka Planet of the Dead, but let's just say there's a chance Dieter survives." End quote. One of the more popular characters out of Army of the Dead. I think Planet of the Dead, of course, makes sense since we know that there's going to be a planetary outbreak after what happened in Army of the Dead. He's keeping busy. Zach is definitely all in with Netflix right now.
Honestly, I am really excited to see this because, like he made, a few different original series. A lot of the things he's made have been adaptations. And in Army of the Dead, he basically wrote, directed, produced, and did a cinematography for the movie, Army of the Dead. So you really get to see exactly like what his sensibilities are, more so than anything else. It's not like he has Terrio on board writing for him.
Right.
So like, what Zach can do, and you know what he can't do. And I kind of like knowing that about him. I feel like I know him better as a director. So I'm excited. I can't wait till he does this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks great. Rebel Moon, I'm really excited for. I didn't include it on the notes here, but did you see how he compared it to Man of Steel?
Okay, so he compared it to like what Seven Samurai, Star Wars, which actually in themselves get compared to each other,
Right.
And then now Man of Steel is like, come on, like that's we obviously know that he really likes Star Wars, and he also really likes Seven Samurai. So I wouldn't be surprised that he draws inspiration from those things. And I typically like his more high concept stuff, like Army of the Dead doesn't feel as high concept as like his DC stuff does. So I hope that he gets to go, really hard in the paint in Rebel Moon. I'm actually more excited about that than I am about any other of his original projects.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Rebel Moon, it's like the hype I felt for Army of the Dead is what I'm feeling for Rebel Moon, if not more. And I think it's only because
this must be a high budget for Netflix film too, right?
Yes. Yeah, he did say that they're going to try to, they must have given him a huge budget, because he said that it's basically that opening scene of Man of Steel where they're on Krypton, but on steroids. So you can only imagine, like, the CGI back then looked incredible, and it looks incredible now.
it's frankly like the standard for that kind of sci-fi. Yes. Star Wars pales in comparison, to be frank, especially nowadays.
Right.
Just the opening scene alone,
a whole world movie of that. Yeah.
Yeah, just crazy.
I like you, Netflix. Always have. I love that they're giving him this
Netflix,
budget.
I don't know. They're starting to. I'm feeling good about them. I hope they, they've done a lot of things recently where I'm like, okay, let's see what you do.
Well, here's what they're doing next month. We have the What's New on Netflix, the November 2021 highlights. First one here is Addams Family Values. And this is one that I think I saw the second one before I saw the first one. Are you much of an Addams Family guy?
No. not really, unfortunately.
I'm going to go back and watch this one. So I did include it in there. Also, around that same time when I was a kid, Dracula from 1992. This is the one that starred Gary Oldman. That one's also hitting Netflix, and I saw that as a kid, and I don't remember much, so I want to see it again.
Yeah, not terribly familiar. Now, the next one I know a little bit about.
Do you now? JoJo's Bizarre Adventures Season 4. Have you finally watched it?
I haven't watched the series, but I feel as though I have because of all the memes that I've seen. And in general, being around anime and watching as much anime as I do, you get familiar.
One of my coworkers, let me know if this is true, but she said that, and she's like 12, so she's actually like 19, but I always joke that she's a child. She mentioned that she doesn't like JoJo fans because they claim that every anime has been inspired by JoJo. Like, she's like, yeah, they're like, Dragon Ball, that's inspired by JoJo. Every single anime. And I'm like, is that true? So I'm asking you, is that true from JoJo fans?
I don't know, although I do know that JoJo has been around longer than the current running series. There was an OVA, and then before the OVA, there was a manga, which I think started in the 90s. Dragon Ball, I feel like that started earlier than that. I mean, like, right. For instance, Naruto, for example, came out in 94, 95. Dragon Ball was out before that. I don't know exactly what year that was. So I don't know. I feel as though that's kind of bogus, but that's my unscientific answer.
I'm slowly making my way through JoJo. It's got me interested enough to keep going. And right now, though, Shaman King, for whatever reason, that really caught me. I know it's a show for kids. Like, I can tell by watching it.
Are you watching it with your kid?
No, I'm not. It's one that I watch when I'm like, okay, he's asleep. Let me watch something to kind of wind me down. And Shaman King's the one.
Kid goes to sleep, and then it's like, finally, time to turn on Dora the Explorer.
That's what it is. It's basically it. You're right. It's basically that. Like, I don't know if I'm just getting old for anime or if this is legitimately a kid's anime.
Yeah, Shaman King, it's just a Saturday morning action cartoon. It's not like Dora, but it's definitely, got your Saturday morning cartoon vibes.
All right, so it's not just me. One of my favorite movies of all time, and I recommend if you haven't seen it, to the other bro cat on the other side, please watch this at some point before you die. It's Moneyball, starring Brad Pitt. Even if you don't like baseball, like this is legitimately like it was my favorite movie that came out of that year.
Did Spielberg direct that? No, he didn't.
It wasn't a huge name from what I remember, like at least not at that time. But it stars Brad Pitt, and it's got a bunch of Jonah Hill is one of the supporting cast members in that.
It's got a great poster. It's just the big wide open field. Brad Pitt sitting at the on that chair, kind of looking back.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, great one.
And Arcane from League of Legends, that's getting a season.
Dude,
are you in?
Okay. I can't. I was waiting with bated breath until you brought this up. Did you see the trailer for this?
I did not.
Okay. Oh my god. So I'm not into League of Legends. I don't hardly even know what League of Legends is. All I know, it's a game. I think it's a MOBA, like WoW, but I think it's different.
Mouth. Got him. Huh? I said MOBAs in your mouth. Got him.
Yeah, MOBAs in your mouth, on your forehead.
I got Scott with that earlier this week, so when I'm like, "Oh, is he gonna say it?" And I'm like, "Oh, he said it. All right, I got to do it on the podcast now." Sorry, keep going.
But it's no, it's completely okay. So watch that trailer. I swear what is the word I'm looking for? The production value of that. I swore it was a movie, and then someone told me it was a show, which actually kind of like brought my excitement down from like 1 million down to like one notch. But even still, the production value is so ridiculously high. I explicitly remember watching this with my my brother, who's also into anime. We always watch anime over like Discord, like we'll share our screens and watch anime together. We were kind of just fooling around on YouTube watching Netflix trailers, and this one came up, and I was just completely floored. I was telling him, I'm like, man, if there's any way that I could make this happen, I would watch this in theater. Like, as a matter of fact, the fact that it's not in theater is a sin because it looks so good. So yeah, this has me absolutely hyped. Actually, I'm gonna pay Netflix that month.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to. I might have to I'm currently bumming someone else's Netflix, but I might have to just give them some money because that looks incredible.
So you're not a League of Legends guy, but the production value and the trailer like really sold you on it. Is it that you recognize the animation company, anything like that?
I don't know who the animation company is, but man, they deserve a raise. Like, wow. The art, it looks like moving paintings. Like, it's so fluid. It's so the art style is so distinct, and the facial expressions are so incredibly nuanced that it almost looks as though it's like motion capture, but it's smoother than that and feels more like animated than that. But you have these very articulate facial expressions, and there's this particular scene. I know I'm just gushing about this, but I'm so hyped about this. The villain or the antagonist in there, like there's this scene where he gets a close up of him and he kind of like lifts his head up and he like does his thing with his eyebrow, and I'm like, whoa! It was so enigmatic, and I was just blown away. I was completely like absolutely awestruck. So I'm 100% on board. I really, really hope that League of Legends fans also like this, because if they don't know what they're missing. Jesus Christ.
No, you're selling me on this more. I'm going to watch the trailer as soon as we're done here. Like, fuck Moneyball and all them. Arcane.
Arcane, bro. It's crazy.
The next one on this list is Red Notice, starring Gal Gadot, The Rock, and Ryan Reynolds.
It's a sequel, right?
I'm not sure about that. I have no idea. I don't know if
it's is like a TV show or like a movie, like an old movie. Or I swear this is an adaptation of something.
Okay, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, but I don't know if it's like a direct sequel to something. But yeah, it wouldn't shock me if it was a remake or something like that. But with Gal Gadot and with those cast members, and especially The Rock, I've got to see it. I'm going to check it out.
Mm-hmm. I bet Warner Brothers is the one actually financing this Netflix original. That's why you have all these Warner Brothers actors in there.
That's always how those things work, right? They have like
what's the chance? What's the third actor? So you have Gal Gadot. So you have Wonder Woman. You have The Rock. Then you have Black Adam, and then who's the third person?
Ryan Reynolds, Green Lantern. Yep.
I don't know. That one's a little bit not too up to date, but we'll see. I don't know.
I'm definitely going to check it out. The one that I was hyped about before you sold me on Arcane was Tiger King Season 2, the show that got us through the pandemic.
The show that started it all.
It's you know what? I watched the trailer from Netflix. It was not a great trailer. It was kind of goofy, like dun 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 dun. It had that goofy music, like there's more to this. There's more wackiness. We've barely scratched the surface.
I saw the little tagline. Oh, it's cringe, bro.
it was, and there wasn't anything new out of it. They were like showing old clips from his commercials and all of that stuff from when he was running for mayor or president. And I'm like, okay, this is all material from season 1.
This is what the algorithm said you wanted.
So I'm hoping season 2 is, yes, interviews with Joe Exotic now from in prison, you know, what he thinks about this worldwide phenomenon that was season 1, but also what happened to that bitch, Carol Baskin, since I think her park got shut down for a while. And I don't know, like I'm in for Tiger King season 2, and I'm glad that they were able to make something out of what they basically already told the story of. And if anything, I could always go back and watch season 1 because that shit was incredible.
I heard so much about it, but just inherently the show just did not get my attention at all. And like all the buzz and the talk, like I just didn't understand any of it. Like it didn't catch me at all. It sounded like people enjoyed it because of the idea that something so wild could actually happen. Like it was based on a real story. But I typically don't like a lot of those based on a real story kind of stuff anyway. So it's fine. I find it funny that this got popular because of that. But
well, and I don't know if it would have been as popular had we not all been at home watching Netflix or whatever during the shutdowns. Sure. And you know, this was a perfect release for him. I'm already a sucker for documentaries, so I was like all in on the thing. That the key to this first season that got me personally was after season 1 or episode 1, it's like, holy shit. And it got worse. And then you get to episode 2 and it's like, oh my God. And it gets worse. And that happens for every episode. Where,
watching a train wreck.
Yes. Where you don't think it could wow, murder, huh? Wait a second, what? And then it just keeps going, and the whole mystery keeps unfolding, and there's more people involved, and there's sabotage.
Wow.
And the people that you thought were the villains are actually good guys in a way, or that they're not as shitty as the people that you find out are even worse in this, as I mentioned, Carol Baskin. And it's that's what got me personally. And I think that, and I don't know if that was the case for anyone else that was like, let me give one episode a shot. Holy shit, I'm in. Cowboy Bebop, we talked about the last time you were on. So that's finally hitting.
Did you see the trailer?
I did. Yes, I did.
So do you remember what I said earlier on Discord?
Which part?
About my feelings? Which part? You don't remember the gist of what I said my feelings were about the show?
Go ahead and summarize it.
I basically said that I wasn't excited and I was actually disappointed and I wasn't going to watch it. But after watching the trailer, I flipped around.
All right.
I flipped around. I'm actually really excited, and I'm actually really, really happy that, because basically all that was going off before was just they released some set photos initially, like when they first released the news, which I thought looked terrible. You know, like not even the costumes. It was the actual sets. Like no one was talking about the sets and the lighting. It looked trash. Everyone was talking about what's her name? Faye Valentine's costume, right. Whatever. Like I could care. I mean, like I do care about those kind of topics, but like in this situation, like forget that. Like look at these cardboard sets. So that's what I was kind of all about. But I watched this the new trailer, and I have to say I'm really pleasantly surprised. What are your thoughts?
I do like that the actors made an effort to sound like the American voice actors. I don't know if you got that same impression, but I'm like, that sounds like Spike. That sounds like Jet. And I was kind of surprised at that they really captured at least the American dubs anime version of those characters. I did think that the directing was a lot different than what I was expecting. I don't know why I thought from that teaser that we got a few weeks back to now that it was going to be more cinematic, but it definitely felt more, I don't know, like maybe made for TV movie type of thing.
But the trailer looks a lot more cinematic, doesn't it?
The teaser did. This one, not as much. Like, I did get some Speed Racer vibes from it, which is a good thing. I really like the Speed Racer live action movie.
See, I didn't watch the teaser. I just watched the latest trailer.
Gotcha. And now
I heard that people didn't like the teaser.
I didn't look too much into it because I know that anime fans, and you and I talked about it. I knew what the reaction was going to be because it's inherently like, okay, this is one of the greatest anime of all time.
Of all time, yeah. I mean, hey, like, don't get me wrong. I honestly don't hold anything against those fans. I sympathize, I understand, and I honestly kind of side with them most of the time. And in this situation, I still kind of side with them. I don't have any reason to, like, put them down or anything. I just, so my big concern was based on what we had gotten and just some of the controversies and the discussion online and stuff, which I wish I could be completely divorced of, but I can't, is that they were trying to do something, break new ground. And it's always, whenever I hear that kind of stuff, I get this very like specific image, in my head. And when I watched the trailer, I was actually really pleased to see that it looked a little bit more adult oriented than I had originally imagined. Right. The fights are a little bit more gritty, a little bit bloodier, and just the tone is more noirish, a lot darker and a little more serious. And there was some humor in there, but it was fine. And I was really happy to see that it looked kind of good in the completely like original way. Like, it is original. It's not like the anime, but I don't want it to be too much like it. I don't want it to look like a hollow copy I don't want it to be a hollow copy. So yeah, I'm happy that at least it's not like they're trying to water it down to make it fit more people, and they're going for something a little bit more specific and narrow. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, it's something that I think I've shared a lot with anytime they make an adaptation about really anything is if they make it too much like the original thing, and this has happened with the Old Guard, they're like, well, I might as well just read the comic then. It's just a copy of the comic. But then if they stray and try to do their own thing, they'll be like, whoa, this is way different than the comic or the anime. What's going on here? So it's such a weird thing because I think both fan bases are going to be upset either way if they make it too much like the anime or if they stray too much from it. There's really no winning. I think all they can do is just hope to make a quality show that ends up capturing, I would say, probably a little bit more of their Netflix general audience. They want this to hit a top 10, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, I was talking about it a little bit, ironically, not on Twitter, but in the comments, the doldrums of YouTube. And, I think that it's just all about, like, what you personally like about the original. Like, if you only just kind of like the opening, you like Spike, you thought he was kind of cool, and nothing really else really you cared about that much, but those things carried you through, then if they messed up on those one thing, then the entire show is messed up when there's so much more to the show than just that. I really liked the show because of the style of the show. I liked the music, and I kind of liked how it was just so adult and serious, like it had like a very energetic vibe to it, but they always took like everything really seriously, and you don't get that a lot, I feel, in a lot of adaptations sometimes. So that really got me when they showed the trailer, and it was like, okay, I dig this.
Well, next time you come on, we can kind of compare notes and see where we're at on this live action Cowboy Bebop. The last one on this list is Masters of the Universe Revelation Season 1 Part 2. I know we have a lot of Kevin Smith brokettes out there, Nick James being one of them, and I personally did not like Season 1 Part 1. I thought it was a terrible show. But if you want to see Part 2, or if you enjoyed Part 1, or if you apparently want to see He-Man return by the end of Season 1, I guess that happens. That might happen. You've got that completed portion, but I don't know if we're going to get any more seasons out of it, to be honest with you.
I've heard a lot of negative things about the show. Not anything in specific, just that people just really thought it was terrible for whatever reason. But apparently He-Man's not in it. Like, you're like, he'll return, something like that. So apparently, like, He-Man's not in the show, which is what they hypothesized before it came out, was that he wouldn't be in it.
Right, and that's what they were saying to Kevin Smith. Like, is it true that this is about Tila and it's not about He-Man? And on Twitter, and they screenshotted him, I think it was early this year in January, he was like, don't listen to those things. This is all about He-Man. It revolves around literally He-Man. And then the show came out and they were like, you're a lying piece of shit, because they trusted him. So they really felt betrayed. It was kind of, I think the Kevin Smith fan base did feel betrayed by him personally, and then the He-Man fan base that were like, we trusted you at your word of this will be a He-Man show, and it isn't. And me, I'm not a He-Man guy. Like, I don't have a horse in that race, but I was just like, this is just a shitty cartoon.
Man, 3 different angles.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But that does wrap up our highlights of what's coming to Netflix next month. If you want the full list, they do have it up on what's new on Netflix.com, I think is what the website is.
Arcane.
Let us know what you're looking forward to. Yeah, Arcane. I got to watch that trailer right after this. But otherwise, we are going to head into the Brocat block, which is the more personal side of the podcast, which is what we've been doing this week. What have you been playing, reading, doing? What's been going on?
Anime, man. So you do watch some anime, so you probably are a little bit familiar with it, but there's a whole wealth of seasonal shows that come out, every season. Like, there would be, like, with TV, you catch the guide and you see what's new. Netflix releases their new season of stuff, and then you watch it. Same thing with anime. There's a whole season of stuff that comes out. Currently, I'm watching like 12, 13 different shows right now.
Wow.
I mean, I could go through some of these. See if if the Brokettes are watching this too. But a big one is season 2 of Jobless Reincarnation, or Mushoku Tensei. It's a really popular one recently. Basically, it's about it's an isekai. I'm not even going to try to over-explain it. If an isekai is basically when someone, they usually like die and then they get reincarnated in a fantasy world. That's like, and it's a whole trope in anime. But the thing about this one is it's actually good, where 9 times out of 10, this trope is a terrible premise for a show most of the time. So that's been fantastic. Netflix actually has a great show that I think is a few episodes in right now. It's called Komi Can't Communicate.
We carried that manga at the shop. It did pretty well. It's popular.
Yeah. Very great, kind of slice of life, feel good, show. So that's really good. And I think it's going to do really well, because I've heard a lot of people have read the manga, and hearing that you've sold that pretty well, that's pretty fantastic. Are you familiar with the studio's Madhouse?
No.
How about Mappa?
No, the studios I'm definitely not quite. Funimation, is that a studio? I know that one.
Well, they're more of like a licensing kind of company, or distributor, I guess
Toei.
you would say.
I know Toei. There we go.
Toei, I'm sure you know Ghibli, right?
Yes. So there's 2 right there.
But both Mappa and Madhouse are pretty much on the top of the world right now when it comes to anime. Like, they're just absolutely releasing bangers every single season, and they're actually combining together to make this new anime called Tact OP Destiny that has been just an absolute banger. You can catch it on Crunchyroll, but basically it's about siblings who are kind of fighting this threat that hate music, and they hear music and they come to destroy it, right? And it's very musical. They have a lot of classical pieces. Like the first episode had this really great fight scene behind Moonlight Sonata. I mean, it's just
that's cool.
Amazing. Yeah. So, and so many other shows. Platinum End is a great one based on the same manga that I'm sure you've heard of this, Death Note. The same mangaka who made Death Note made Platinum End. So that's a really great one that's out. Blue Period is a show about art. So this about this kind of a kid who, college kid who's trying to aspire to become an artist and kind of do something with his life. And it's a really great drama. Sakugan is a great show. Have you heard of Made in Abyss or Gurren Lagann?
No.
Okay. No problem. It's basically kind of like a deep underground adventure where these miners are trying to fight their way to the top to get to the outside because no one's ever been there, and they're kind of just like exploring new things along the way. So man, so many fantastic anime. I could go. I literally only went through half the shows that I'm watching this season. Digimon has a new show, Digimon Ghost Game.
I think you or someone else had. I think you or Scott had mentioned that. Yeah,
they made a Digimon show earlier this year, a remake of the original Digimon series, but it's not great.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think it's actually doing well, but I don't know why. It looks terrible. But yeah, so yeah, mostly just that.
And are all of these mainly on Crunchyroll? Is what you've been catching up on?
You can watch every single one of these shows on either Crunchyroll or Funimation, one of the two. It's like pretty much split in half, and like only like one show that I would actually recommend is available not on either of those, but you can get it like on some weird third-party series called like High Dive, which is actually a real thing you can pay for, but no one's going to do it.
Once I get a job again, I do want to subscribe to, I think it was Funimation that Scott told me to, because the Phoenix Wright series, I had caught every episode that was on YouTube illegally, and I watched all of those, and then he was like, yeah, they're up on Funimation, and Funimation's only, I think, $7.99 a month or something, he said.
Yeah.
So yeah. I intend to eventually, and I know now would be the ideal time because I'm not working and I'm watching more things, but I'm also like, that's $8 a month is $8 a month. You know, that's $8 I might not have in a month. So
well, you better get grandfathered into the plan before Sony merges Crunchyroll and Funimation together and then charges you twice the amount of money.
Oh man, yeah. I guess that's well. Can you grandfather in? Can you say like renew me for the $8 each year? Like, does it work like that?
I have no idea. I mean, probably not. I mean, if they don't want you to, they won't.
No, it's going to be okay. Your contract is up now. $19.99, please.
Well, it's month to month. There's no contract, you know, and you're paying for these services. So it's like they'll send out a release and they'll say, hey, or what they might do is they might keep it as like separate services so that they don't have to interrupt people's service. And they say, hey, you can choose to pay this amount, and if you do, you'll also your login will also work with the other. You know, like if you have Crunchyroll, it'll work with Funimation, or if you have Funimation, it'll work with Crunchyroll. So that way you can have access to both. Or they might make a completely new service. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on where they don't know what Sony's going to do. Same thing with Discovery. They don't know if they're going to merge all of those streaming services into one. Mm-hmm. A lot of changes. Is that next year too that the Sony deal goes through?
Well, I believe it's already gone through. It always takes a long time for these things to actually
take effect.
Like actually make it take effect, yeah. And even if it does take effect, like who knows, they might just choose not to merge them together, which I think would be ridiculous. But at the same time, that's a huge feat because they're the two biggest, you know, distributors of online digital anime currently. So I'm sure people, I mean, if they raise the costs, people, you know, are probably not going to buy that. So I don't know what they're going to do. It's going to be interesting to see.
On my end, I've been, I told you, I started watching The Shaman King, which was really good. I started playing Kingdom of Hearts 3. I'm up to the Toy Story world of that game, so I'm actually making some pretty decent progress, and it helps that Leo, my son, is into it. Like, he'll watch me play it, so it's like, all right, cool. He doesn't get bored of it, and, I can play a little bit here and there, even when, when I'm watching him, he can sit down next to me and watch some Disney characters fight Final Fantasy characters. And
yeah, that's pretty awesome, though, to be honest. Yeah, the only time I'll ever watch Disney.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I think he watches that Spider-Man show that just came out that has Miles and Gwen and Spidey on the Disney Channel. I think it's on, and he watches that at my parents' house. And I've caught an episode, and I'm like, oh, this is fucking not as good as I thought it was going to be, unfortunately. But he seems to like it. And I've been applying at several places. Still, I got one call about a social media handling job at one of the local gyms. And they basically said that, there's nothing available yet, but that they'll keep me on the list because things might change. And especially now with businesses and everything going on, there's all kinds of changes. So there's a little bit of hope there. I applied
to a big gym to have a social media handling job.
Yeah, they're like one of those franchise type of places.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, so it's gonna be like a regional thing or something.
Yes.
Or is it like a?
Well, yeah, okay. I mean, they're in several states, but it's open enough to where if you own your gym, you can you can put up your own social media stuff to it. It's not like
that's awesome.
It's not like Planet Fitness where there's only one account and it's Planet Fitness and that's it. No, in this case, every store can have their own social media account, which is nice. So,
well, you definitely have the skills for that,
Well, yeah, and that's what I told them. I'm like, I did it for the comic. I did it for 2 comic shops, the Orlando one and the one I worked at.
And your podcast, you handle all the scheduling and the promotion. So yeah, you're more than qualified. So
I hope so. Like I applied to some of these places on Indeed.com. They're like, okay, well, you got to have CE or CSO and CEI certificates and all this shit. And I'm like, I don't know anything about that, but I know I can organically. I have no idea. It's
you have to have a check mark,
Yeah, right.
It's like you get like actual paper certificate with a blue check mark on there.
It's like, I got the thing. Can I get the job now?
Every verified has one.
Oh my god! I turn into like even more of an asshole like after that.
No, Dan, we lost him. That's funny.
But I also applied at this local tea shop, and he was kind of like, "Why do you want to work here when you've done these other things?" And I'm like, "Well, you're a locally owned thing. I want to see what I can contribute to the store, to the restaurant, and we'll see if I get a call back from him. We'll know in I guess in a couple of weeks. I think if they haven't called me by next week,
it's not like Tijuana or something like that.
No, it's like super local. Yeah, just one, and I met the owner, and he was working there. I'm assuming because. I don't know if he lack of staff or something, or he normally works there as it is, but I'm only going off of experience that I have of the owner of the comic shop that I worked at didn't have a set schedule in the shop. So that's what I'm assuming.
I'm sure Kelly wouldn't have a problem having you come home and smell like tea every day.
No, not at all. Although, yeah, I mean, she can get tea. She works at a coffee shop herself. So I don't know, but yeah, to have like different kinds, I'm sure she wouldn't mind that either. And my last resort, I mean, I've put up a Fiverr where I can do podcast editing for X amount based on the amount of time that your episode is. Haven't gotten any bites yet. And, but that's up there. That's going to be extra income that I'll just keep up regardless of when I end up getting a gig. I've put up some stuff on eBay, some collectibles that I've acquired throughout the years. And I'm like, you know what? I've got some extra time. Let me throw some stuff up on eBay. I've made about $100 so far after, 3 days. So that's something. And that worse, like my emergency job is to work for, there's a bunch of local places. Like I have some friends that work in construction that I could always do. But there's I'm thinking of going into Kroger delivery. Do you know what Kroger is?
Yeah, they're like basically like food service, right?
Yeah, they have grocery shops, I think, up north. But here in Florida, they have no physical shops, and they kind of went a different direction, and I think it was smart, where they only do grocery delivery. So they have one warehouse, or several of them, I'm assuming now, in Florida, and you go, you add your groceries on the app, someone comes in and delivers them at whatever time to leave them at your...
It really is. It really is popping.
So that's one thing that I'm like, maybe I'll do that, something where it's not constant customer service over the counter. It's just delivering stuff, got my little blue suit or whatever, and then that awesome fucking blue truck. So I might give that a shot.
Drive around a little bit too, Yeah. Like, you're moving around. You're not in the same place all the time. Might be kind of nice.
And it's outdoors. I get it. And there's dangers to driving a big truck like that. And so I understand, but why not? It's worth a shot. And I don't know. If I don't like it, I can find something else, But that's basically been my week.
Sounds like
unemployed.
You got a plan there. Hopefully, one of the things works out for you. What are you most excited about or most anticipating?
I think I'm probably going to end up just finding something local. Maybe the tea shop will end up calling, which would be great. I would love to, manage a business's social media. I think it would be good to work remotely and then maybe going into that place.
Tell them you have an award-winning podcast. Give them your card, So I don't. I hadn't got you said you were going to send me some cards. I never got your cards.
So I actually looked into that this week on Overnight Prints. I got an email yesterday that they were sending them. They should have arrived already at each of your places by the 16th, which was well over a week ago. Yeah. And
I got like a Teespring sticker that had like a comic book character on it. I'm like, did Dan send that to me? Because I bought like something from you. Yeah, T Public sticker.
Yeah, that's a part of the Patreon. Yeah, for being at the $5 tier. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Every 3 months you'll get that T Public decal.
See, I got that, but I didn't get the cards for some reason. That's weird. I'll have to ask my roommate.
So, and you probably shouldn't. You probably haven't gotten them yet. I would expect them next week because just yesterday I got the email saying we've shipped your cards. So I'm like, okay. They usually take about a week and a half or a week to get to wherever. So I would give it another week before they arrive. But I appreciate it. I do appreciate it. Thank you for you, Jared, and everyone else for coming through. And that goes out to the Brokehead Core too. If you're like you have a local place that will put up cards, or if you want cards just to help promote the podcast, let me know. Send me a DM, send me an email. You can find those links at thereasonsimbroke.com, and I will send some cards over to you easily. Mm-hmm. But I think that about wraps it up. I know you had mentioned that Vero actually has a desktop version that they released. I know we're talking about social media links here.
Yeah. So Vero just recently launched their beta desktop app. I've already installed it on my desktop and on my laptop, and it looks great. I mean, it looks beautiful. You can actually type reasonably with the keyboard, which is fantastic, which I think was one of the things kind of holding back the app from really, like, for me wanting to really blog with it and use it a lot, was that I couldn't type with it. And it looks fantastic. I actually follow one of the guys who works on the software team. Oh, nice. His name is Escape. I think it's like David or something like that. He has like a last name starts with a B, but he's kind of posted some things, here and there, kind of keeping me up to date with like what was going on with it. And it finally released like a few days ago. So definitely check it out. You can go to vero.co, and it'll be on it's the first thing you see. It'll say, hey, we're on desktop now. You click it, and then it takes you to the place where you can download it for Windows or Mac. And it's great. So I definitely recommend checking it out.
I love Vero. It's a great social media platform. I do wish that there were scheduling options for it, but I don't mind going in. It's really easy and going through the stream. I don't follow a ton of people just because I don't know of a lot of people from Twitter or
There's
Facebook
also
that
a
are
lot
on
of
Vero.
bots.
Yeah, it's not as bad as Instagram or Twitter, but yeah, that's definitely already made its way to Vero, which isn't surprising. I think that's actually a badge of honor. You've made it as a social media app when you have bots.
But I mean, at the same time, though, I just like that everything is it's just truly chronological. It's so great. You can open up the app and you can read whatever you didn't catch up with, and then you just close it and it's done.
Exactly.
It's over. You don't have like this, like, oh, did I miss something? You have to watch it again, so that way whatever slipped through the cracks, I can. That like killed me with Twitter.
It puts you right back where you stopped, and you scroll right up. There's no ads.
Yeah.
There's none of that bullshit. No recommended.
No
type
algorithm.
Of stuff. No algorithm.
Yeah.
It's
also,
just a timeline.
You can block specific kinds of content from each individual. So, for instance, if there's an individual that you like only for pictures, but you don't want to read his links or see what movies he's recommending you can block everything else but that from that one individual.
That's awesome.
Or you can block everything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I highly recommend it. So they better give me like some sort of royalties for selling their product.
They should. Well, we're at that part of the podcast, so let them know what do you have a Vero link or what they can find you at? You're at?
Yeah, so it'll be vero.co /Millennial Mike. That's MILLENNIAL. Mike spelled the way that you know that it's spelled. No incorrect spellings like my Velcro 16 back in my old Twitter days.
Got it. So MIC, like microphone.
Yeah, drop the mic. No, not like that.
MIKE.
MIKE, like Mike.
There you go. And there will be a link to Millennial Mike's Vero in the description of today's episode. Otherwise, you can also find them on Discord. There's a link on there too at thereasonsimbroke.com. And this week, if you want to be heard on the podcast, you can also leave us a voicemail. If you head on over to speakpipe.com/thereasonsimbroke, you can leave us a voicemail 90 seconds or less, whether it's a question, a comment, and you can be heard right here on the podcast. So that's pretty handy for this week. Otherwise, Millennial Mike, I really appreciate you being on, talking anime, talking film. It's always fun to have you on, so I do appreciate your time. Thank you.
Big time. Yeah, good. I hope that everything goes well with the job searching too.
I appreciate it, man. Hopefully we have better news next time we talk about that.
A month and a half. And then you guys get to deal with me again.
Looking forward to it, man. I really am. I look forward to it. Otherwise, thank you all so much for tuning in. I've been Daniel with Millennial Mike and Brocat Core. All will be well. Denis Villeneuve, you mentioned, is he your favorite director of all time currently, or just current working director?
So, I mean, I'm not really sure exactly how in depth on this podcast we talked about my film tastes. It's not super retro, so I don't have necessarily a wide swath of director knowledge, before I'd say the 70s. So, but I would say in general, though, I mean, like, working more modern contemporary directors, I'd say, yeah, he's probably my favorite. Mostly because that's the kind of movies that I like to watch. I really enjoyed. Actually, I enjoy more than anything his like first movies. His first one was called Incendie, and then he made another movie, a black and white movie after that called Polytechnic. Both French films. Really good stuff.
I'll have to check him out because I'm sitting here like Arrival is my favorite one from his.
I love Arrival too. That's amazing.
It's so fucking good. I just saw it again 3 weeks ago.
That year was a good year. That was Man of Steel year, man. It was good.
Oh, wasn't that far back? Holy shit.
Same year. Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
Dune, whenever you get around to watching Dune, whatever way you end up watching it, I'm curious to see what you think. I know a lot of people compare it to Lord of the Rings or Star Wars, like that kind of saga. And this is going to sound pretentious, and I don't care, but this is like,
better.
The saga for people who like films, who like movies that are going to make you think, and you like the camera work, you like the cinematography. Not to say that those movies don't have that, but this is more. It's Denis. He's gonna take his time with his shots, with everything he does.
The guy is the GOAT, man. He's so good, and he's young. I mean, he has a lot. He gets compared and tossed around the same kind of conversation that Nolan does. And to be completely frank, I like him better than Nolan because, I don't know. With Nolan, I feel like you get kind of what you expect, which is good because he's the only one who can offer it. There's no one else can offer it. So he keeps offering it. But with Denis, I feel as though he's always challenging his own abilities. He's not just giving you another 1000% Nolan film. He's giving you, 103% Denis film. And he's always pushing himself. Yeah. And you can see, and the great thing is he makes recently he's been making a lot of big blockbuster films, which I think is fine. I really love Blade Runner.
Me too.
And I'm sure I'll love this new Dune movie. If I choose to watch it, when I choose to watch it. But I really love his small movies. He can really make a great character drama. He's so good at that.
Well, let me know when you watch it and if you do, because holy shit, like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, whatever, man. Fucking Dune. Right. I'm in with the sandworms.
I don't even have to see Dune to know that.